Abstract. Organizations increasingly confront the dual-edged nature of workplace digitalization, enhanced connectivity alongside rising technostress, boundary erosion, and well-being concerns. This article examines digital detox, intentional technology disengagement, as an evidence-based organizational intervention. Drawing on research spanning information systems, organizational psychology, and well-being studies, we synthesize emerging evidence on digital detox prevalence, outcomes, and implementation strategies. Analysis reveals that structured digital detox initiatives reduce technostress, improve work-life boundaries, and enhance employee well-being, though effects vary by implementation design and organizational context. We present evidence-based interventions including micro-breaks, boundary setting protocols, communication norms, and technology redesign, illustrated through organizational examples from technology, healthcare, and professional services sectors. The article concludes by outlining forward-looking capabilities organizations require to build sustainable digital work environments, human-centered technology governance, adaptive work design, and continuous learning systems that balance connectivity with cognitive recovery. The smartphone buzzes during dinner. The laptop stays open through evening hours. Work messages arrive on weekends. For millions of knowledge workers, the boundaries between professional and personal time have dissolved into a continuous stream of digital availability. This hyperconnected reality delivers undeniable benefits: flexibility, rapid collaboration, global coordination, but accumulating evidence suggests organizations are approaching critical thresholds where connectivity costs begin outweighing productivity gains. Recent research indicates that workplace technology use increasingly associates with elevated stress, anxiety, sleep disruption, and reduced life satisfaction. Cho et al. 2025. The phenomenon extends beyond individual experience to organizational performance. Technology overload correlates with diminished creativity, impaired decision-making, and higher turnover intentions. As one study documented, constant connectivity can paradoxically reduce the very productivity it promises to enhance. Enter digital detox, the intentional, temporary disengagement from digital technologies. Once primarily associated with personal wellness retreats and individual lifestyle choices, digital detox is gaining attention as an organizational strategy. Companies ranging from Silicon Valley technology firms to European professional services organizations are experimenting with structured disconnection policies, email-free hours, and technology sabbaticals. The stakes are substantial. Organizations that effectively manage workplace technology relationships stand to improve employee well-being, reduce burnout, enhance productivity, and strengthen retention. Conversely, those that ignore mounting technostress risk diminished performance, increased healthcare costs, and talent flight to competitors offering healthier digital work environments. This article synthesizes emerging research on digital detox as organizational intervention, examining what works, for whom, and under what conditions. The digital detox landscape. Defining digital detox in workplace contexts. Digital detox lacks universal definition in organizational literature, but converging research characterizes it as intentional, temporary reduction or elimination of digital technology use to reduce negative impacts and restore well-being. Cho et al. 2025. The intentional component distinguishes digital detox from forced disconnection, network outages, device loss, or passive non-use. The temporary element differentiates it from permanent technology rejection or complete digital abandonment. In workplace settings, digital detox manifests across multiple dimensions: scope, complete disconnection, all devices, all platforms, versus selective disengagement, specific apps, channels, or functions, duration, micro-breaks, minutes to hours, through extended sabbaticals, weeks to months, timing, scheduled intervals, evenings, weekends, quarterly, versus spontaneous disengagement, degree of formalization, individual voluntary practices versus organizationally mandated policies, target technologies, communication tools, email, messaging, information platforms, social media, news, or entertainment applications. Research distinguishes digital detox from related concepts. Unlike digital minimalism, a philosophy of selective, values-aligned technology use, digital detox emphasizes temporary abstention rather than permanent reduction. Unlike digital wellness programs focused on ergonomics or screen time tracking, digital detox centers on behavioral disengagement rather than optimized engagement. Prevalence, drivers, and distribution. Precise prevalence data remains limited, but available evidence suggests growing adoption. Cho et al. 2025 found that approximately one-third of their sample had attempted digital detox, with motivations spanning stress reduction, productivity enhancement, relationship improvement, and well-being restoration. This aligns with broader survey data indicating that substantial minorities of knowledge workers regularly experience technology-related stress and desire more disconnection time. 3 primary driver categories emerge from research: technostress and overload. The proliferation of workplace technologies, email, messaging platforms, video conferencing, project management systems, enterprise social networks, creates cumulative demand on attention and cognitive resources. When technology demands exceed individual capacity to respond, technostress results, characterized by feelings of being overwhelmed, invaded, and unable to cope with constant connectivity. Cho et al. 2025. Organizations with rapid digital transformation, distributed workforces, or 24/7 operational models experience heightened technostress prevalence, boundary erosion, and work-life conflict. Mobile technologies enable work anywhere, anytime, a flexibility that simultaneously enables work everywhere, always. Research documents that technology-enabled availability expectations blur work-non-work boundaries, reducing recovery time and increasing conflict between professional and personal domains. Sectors with global operations, client service models requiring responsiveness, or cultures emphasizing constant availability show particularly pronounced boundary challenges. Well-being and performance concerns. Growing evidence links excessive workplace technology use to sleep disruption, anxiety, reduced life satisfaction, and physical health concerns including eye strain and musculoskeletal issues. From performance perspectives, constant interruption fragments attention, reduces deep work capacity, and impairs complex problem solving. Organizations in knowledge-intensive industries increasingly recognize that well-being represents a performance asset rather than peripheral concern. Distribution patterns reveal that digital detox interest concentrates among certain demographics and sectors. Younger workers, particularly millennials and Generation Z who matured with pervasive technology, show heightened awareness of digital wellness issues. Professional services, technology companies, and healthcare organizations, sectors combining high technology saturation with cognitive-intensive work, demonstrate elevated digital detox experimentation. Geographic variation exists, with European organizations often leading North American counterparts in formal right-to-disconnect policies. Organizational and individual consequences of digital overload. Organizational performance impacts. The business case for addressing digital overload extends beyond humanitarian concern to measurable performance outcomes. Research documents multiple pathways through which excessive workplace technology use undermines organizational effectiveness, productivity paradoxes, while collaboration technologies promise efficiency gains. Excessive use creates productivity drains. Studies estimate that knowledge workers spend substantial portions of their workday managing communication, checking email, responding to messages, attending meetings, leaving limited time for focused, value-creating work. The constant task switching required by digital communication imposes cognitive switching costs, with some research suggesting it takes an average of 23 minutes to refocus after interruption. For organizations where employee time represents primary cost input, these productivity losses translate directly to bottom-line impact. Innovation and creativity deficits. Breakthrough thinking requires sustained attention and cognitive space for idea incubation. Digital overload fragments attention into brief intervals between interruptions, undermining the deep work conditions that enable creative insight. Research links constant connectivity to reduce divergent thinking and lower creative problem-solving performance. For organizations competing on innovation, digital overload may quietly erode competitive advantage. Decision quality deterioration. Effective judgment requires information processing capacity and reflective thinking time, both scarce commodities under digital overload conditions. Studies document that decision fatigue, exacerbated by continuous microdecisions about which messages to answer and which notifications to address, depletes self-regulatory resources needed for strategic choices. Organizations operating in complex, uncertain environments face heightened risk when digital overload compromises leadership decision quality. Talent retention challenges. Employees experiencing chronic technostress demonstrate higher turnover intentions and lower organizational commitment. In competitive talent markets, organizations perceived as demanding unreasonable connectivity may lose high performers to competitors offering healthier digital work environments. Replacement costs, including recruiting, onboarding, and productivity ramps, make retention impacts economically significant. Individual well-being and stakeholder impacts. Digital overload consequences extend beyond organizational metrics to human costs affecting employees, families, and communities. Psychological well-being. Research documents associations between excessive workplace technology use and elevated anxiety, depression symptoms, and reduced life satisfaction. Cho et al. 2025. The mechanisms include chronic stress from constant availability, social comparison dynamics on professional social media, and reduced time for restorative activities. While correlational evidence limits causal inference, longitudinal studies increasingly suggest directional relationships where technology overload precedes well-being decline. Physical health. Beyond psychological impacts, digital overload associates with sleep disruption, blue light exposure, bedtime device use preventing cognitive wind down, eye strain, headaches, and musculoskeletal problems from prolonged device use. These health consequences generate healthcare costs and absenteeism while reducing quality of life. Relationship quality. When work technologies intrude into personal time, relationship satisfaction suffers. Studies document that partner use of work devices during shared time associates with relationship conflict and reduced closeness. For employees with caregiving responsibilities, digital overload creates particular tension between professional demands and family obligations. These personal costs cascade beyond individual employees to affect families and communities. Recovery and renewal. Psychological detachment from work, the mental disengagement enabling recovery, requires disconnecting from work-related technology. When employees remain digitally tethered to work during non-work hours, recovery suffers, creating cumulative fatigue that undermines both well-being and next-day performance. The erosion of genuine recovery time represents perhaps the most insidious impact of digital overload. It undermines the very renewal that enables sustained performance. Evidence-based organizational responses. Temporal boundary interventions. Organizations can establish clear temporal boundaries that protect recovery time while maintaining necessary connectivity. Research demonstrates that structured disconnection policies reduce technostress and improve well-being without undermining productivity when implemented thoughtfully. Evidence summary. Studies examining mandatory disconnection policies, such as France's right to disconnect legislation, find positive well-being effects including reduced stress and improved work-life balance. Cho et al. 2025 documented that digital detox participants reported stress reduction, productivity improvement, and enhanced relationships as primary benefits. Critically, research suggests that collectively observed boundaries, team-level or organization-wide, produce stronger effects than individual voluntary disengagement, as they eliminate pressure to remain available when peers disconnect. Effective approaches include email-free time blocks, designating specific hours, e.g. after 6 p.m., before 8 a.m., weekends, when internal email expectations are suspended, meeting-free days, establishing one day weekly with no scheduled meetings, protecting deep work time, scheduled disconnect periods, implementing organization-wide digital sabbaticals, e.g. company-wide shutdown weeks, communication response time norms, setting expectations for reasonable response windows, e.g. 24-48 hours for email, rather than instant availability notification management policies, encouraging or requiring employees to disable work notifications during non-work hours. Volkswagen implemented email server shutdowns that prevent work emails from reaching employee smartphones during off-hours, specifically targeting shift workers whose defined schedules made temporal boundaries clear. The automotive manufacturer's approach recognized that individual-level solutions often fail when organizational norms create availability pressure. By implementing technical controls that prevent after-hours email delivery to mobile devices, Volkswagen removed the decision burden from individual employees and established collective disconnection norms. Daimler developed an alternative approach allowing employees to activate mail on holiday settings that automatically delete incoming emails during vacation, sending senders a message indicating their email was not delivered and providing alternative contacts. This intervention addresses the post-vacation email backlog that often deters employees from fully disconnecting during time off. By eliminating the accumulating inbox that awaits returning vacationers, Daimler's approach removes a significant barrier to genuine vacation recovery. Communication architecture and norms. How organizations structure communication systems and expectations substantially shapes technology relationship quality. Evidence-based communication design can reduce overload while maintaining necessary information flow. Evidence summary. Research on communication load documents that proliferating communication channels, email plus messaging plus enterprise social networks plus video conferencing, creates cumulative burden rather than offering choice flexibility. Studies suggest that reducing channel proliferation and establishing clear purpose-based channel selection reduces technostress. Additionally, evidence indicates that asynchronous communication norms, where immediate response is not expected, better support deep work and well-being compared to synchronous expectations. Effective approaches include channel rationalization, limiting number of active communication platforms and defining clear use cases for each asynchronous first policies, defaulting to communication modes that don't require real-time response, email, project management comments, and reserving synchronous channels, video calls, phone, for genuinely urgent matters. Internal communication guidelines, establishing norms about when to use which channels, acceptable response times, and message urgency indicators. Meeting protocol optimization, implementing practices like mandatory agendas, default 25/50 minute durations, allowing transition time, and required advanced materials. Sharing email best practices, encouraging specific subject lines, limiting recipient lists using FYI or action required tags, and avoiding evenings, weekends for non-urgent messages. Dropbox implemented Meetingeddon, eliminating recurring meetings and declaring meeting-free Wednesdays. Recognizing that video call fatigue was particularly acute for remote workers during the pandemic, The company found that providing structured meeting-free time enabled employees to manage asynchronous work more effectively and reduced the constant cognitive switching between collaborative and focused work modes. Micro-break and recovery interventions rather than only addressing extended disconnection. Organizations can support regular micro-breaks that provide cognitive recovery throughout the workday. Research demonstrates that brief technology disengagement periods accumulate beneficial effects. Evidence summary. Studies of work breaks document that brief respites from task demands restore attention, reduce fatigue, and improve subsequent performance. Research specific to screen breaks finds that brief intervals away from digital devices reduce eye strain, improve posture, and provide cognitive recovery. The optimal timing appears to involve relatively frequent, brief breaks rather than infrequent extended breaks. For instance, 5 minutes per hour proves more beneficial than a single 30-minute break. Effective approaches include structured break reminders, using software that prompts regular screen breaks with suggestions for non-digital activities, walking meetings, replacing some desk-based video calls with phone-based walking conversations, designated quiet spaces, creating phone-free zones for focused work or brief meditation, no devices, meeting options, encouraging some meetings to occur without laptops or phones, present mindfulness and breathing exercises, offering brief guided practices accessible during work breaks. Intel experimented with quiet time initiatives, providing 4-hour blocks of interruption-free time each week, during which employees forward calls to voicemail, set email auto-responses, and close instant messaging. The technology company's approach recognized that even highly skilled knowledge workers struggle to create uninterrupted focus time without organizational support. Evaluation found that participants reported higher productivity and lower stress, with particular benefits for complex cognitive tasks requiring sustained concentration. Technology design and configuration. Organizations can influence how technologies function within their environments through procurement decisions, configuration choices, and design requirements that prioritize well-being alongside productivity. Evidence summary. Research in persuasive technology and digital well-being demonstrates that interface design substantially shapes usage patterns. Features like infinite scroll, autoplay, and notification systems are specifically designed to maximize engagement, which in workplace contexts can translate to overuse. Studies show that modifying these features, such as batching notifications rather than delivering them instantly, reduces interruption frequency without missing critical information. Effective approaches include notification batching, configuring systems to deliver grouped notifications at scheduled intervals rather than continuously, status indicator customization, allowing employees to set focus time status that suppresses non-urgent notifications, default settings optimization, establishing organizational defaults that minimize interruption, e.g. muted notification sounds, disabled pop-ups, dashboard simplification, reducing information overload by customizing which metrics and updates appear in primary views, plugin and extension deployment, installing browser extensions that limit distracting websites or track productive time. Microsoft conducted extensive research on email and meeting overload across its workforce, then deployed My Analytics, now Viva Insights, to provide employees with personalized data on work patterns including meeting hours, after-hours work time, and collaboration network breadth. The software company's approach exemplifies data-informed intervention, providing employees visibility into their digital work patterns as a foundation for behavior change. The system offers actionable recommendations like scheduling focus time, planning shorter meetings, and reducing multitasking during calls, translating insight into accessible next steps. Managerial modeling and cultural change. Technology norms are powerfully shaped by leader behavior and organizational culture. Evidence suggests that formal policies achieve limited impact without accompanying cultural change and leadership modeling. Evidence summary. Research on organizational culture and change management documents that employee behavior closely tracks perceived leadership priorities more than stated policies. Studies examining workplace technology use find that employees whose managers email during evenings and weekends feel pressure to do likewise, regardless of formal policies discouraging such behavior. Conversely, research shows that when leaders visibly practice healthy technology boundaries, such as not sending late-night emails or genuinely disconnecting during vacation, employee stress decreases and well-being improves. Effective approaches include leadership technology compacts, senior leaders publicly committing to specific technology boundaries and reporting on adherence, email send time awareness, training managers to use delayed send features for messages composed outside work hours, vacation disconnect expectations, explicit leader communication that vacation should involve genuine disconnection. Coupled with visible leader modeling recognition systems, acknowledging and rewarding employees and teams that maintain sustainable technology practices, well-being metrics in performance systems, incorporating team well-being indicators alongside traditional performance metrics in managerial evaluations. Boston Consulting Group implemented a predictable time-off initiative requiring consultants to schedule regular disconnected time during project engagements, typically one full day and one evening weekly when they would be entirely unreachable by clients or colleagues. The professional services firm's intervention addressed the always-on culture endemic to consulting, where client demands and project intensity typically preclude boundaries. Critically, the program required team coordination to ensure client needs were met while individuals disconnected, embedding collective responsibility for sustainable work patterns. Research partnerships evaluating the initiative documented improvements in work-life balance, job satisfaction, and turnover intentions, alongside maintained or improved client satisfaction, demonstrating that well-being and performance can align rather than trade off. Building long-term digital resilience and governance. Short-term interventions provide important relief, but sustainable digital well-being requires organizational capabilities that adapt to evolving technology landscapes and embed healthy practices into fundamental operations. Human-centered technology governance. Organizations require structured processes for evaluating, procuring, and implementing workplace technologies with explicit consideration of well-being alongside productivity criteria. Traditional technology adoption decisions center on functionality, integration, security, and cost. Building long-term digital resilience requires expanding evaluation frameworks to systematically assess well-being implications. This involves establishing cross-functional technology governance committees including not only IT and operations but also human resources, well-being program leaders, and employee representatives. These bodies can apply well-being impact assessment frameworks that evaluate proposed technologies across dimensions including interruption potential, boundary effects, cognitive load, and user autonomy. Procurement processes can incorporate well-being requirements, such as mandating that vendors provide detailed notification customization options, offer usage analytics to support self-monitoring, and enable administrative controls for organization-level default settings. Implementation protocols can include well-being-focused pilot testing that specifically evaluates stress, workload, and boundary impacts before full deployment. Organizations building mature technology governance also establish sunset processes for retiring technologies that create more burden than value. The proliferation of collaboration tools often results from additive logic, adopting new platforms without retiring old ones, creating cumulative complexity. Regular technology portfolio reviews that measure utilization, redundancy, and user satisfaction enable evidence-based rationalization decisions. Adaptive work design and operating models. Sustainable digital well-being requires work design that intentionally balances connectivity demands with cognitive recovery needs. Recognizing that one-size-fits-all approaches fail across diverse roles and contexts, organizations can develop role-based technology expectations that acknowledge meaningful variation in connectivity requirements. customer-facing roles, crisis management positions, and global coordination functions legitimately require higher availability than individual contributor roles focused on analytical deep work. Rather than applying uniform policies, adaptive approaches establish differentiated expectations with clear rationale, ensuring that connectivity demands match role requirements rather than cultural habit. Job crafting initiatives can empower employees to proactively redesign their work patterns within role parameters, including technology boundaries that suit individual productivity rhythms and well-being needs. Supported by manager coaching, employees can experiment with focused time scheduling, communication batching, and channel preferences, treating digital work patterns as modifiable rather than fixed. Team-level agreements represent another adaptive mechanism. Research shows that technology norms are powerfully shaped by immediate team context. Facilitated team discussions that establish shared communication expectations, such as which channels to use for what purposes, acceptable response times, and collective quiet hours, create local ownership while ensuring coordination. These agreements can be revisited quarterly, allowing continuous adaptation as projects and team composition evolve. Organizations can also design cycles and rhythms that alternate intensive collaborative periods with focused individual work phases. Recognizing that most knowledge work requires both modes but they serve distinct purposes. Rather than expecting simultaneous constant collaboration and deep focus. Thoughtful scheduling can create sprint-like collaborative phases followed by integration periods with protected focus time. Continuous learning and capability building as digital technologies and their workplace applications continuously evolve. Organizational digital well-being capabilities require ongoing development rather than one-time interventions. Digital well-being literacy represents a foundational capability spanning multiple dimensions. Employees benefit from understanding technostress mechanisms, recognizing personal warning signs of digital overload, and developing practical strategies for managing their technology relationships. Training programs can build these capabilities through workshops, microlearning modules, and peer learning communities. Critically, these learning initiatives should extend beyond individual coping strategies to include collective dimensions, helping employees understand how to negotiate team communication norms, advocate for sustainable work practices, and contribute to cultural change builds agency for shaping their digital work environment rather than only adapting to it. Manager capabilities require particular attention. First-line managers substantially influence team technology norms through their own behavior and how they respond to employee technology challenges. Manager training can address how to model healthy boundaries, recognize signs of team technology overload, facilitate team technology agreements, and balance productivity demands with well-being protection. Organizations can establish communities of practice focused on digital well-being, creating forums for employees across functions to share challenges, experiment with interventions, and learn from each other's experiences. These communities can serve as innovation laboratories, testing new approaches and disseminating effective practices laterally across the organization more rapidly than formal change programs. Data infrastructure supporting continuous learning enables evidence-based refinement. Organizations can implement privacy-respecting analytics that provide aggregated insight into work patterns, such as meeting loads, after-hours activity, and communication network density, identifying teams or functions experiencing particular technology intensity. This data can inform targeted interventions, track changes over time, and evaluate program effectiveness. Conclusion: digital overload represents one of the defining organizational challenges of contemporary work, touching productivity, innovation, well-being, and retention. Yet this challenge also presents opportunity. Organizations that develop mature capabilities for managing workplace technology relationships can differentiate themselves as employers of choice while enhancing performance outcomes. The evidence reviewed here suggests several key takeaways for organizational leaders. Technology relationships require active management. Left unmanaged, digital tools optimized for maximum engagement will naturally expand to fill available time and attention. Sustainable digital work environments result from deliberate design choices, not default adoption patterns. Collective solutions outperform individual approaches. While personal digital wellness practices have value, individual employees struggle to maintain boundaries when organizational norms create availability pressure. Team-level and organization-wide interventions that establish shared expectations and remove pressure for constant connectivity achieve stronger, more durable effects. Integration beats addition. Digital well-being initiatives most effectively embed into existing systems, performance management, technology procurement, leadership development, rather than operating as standalone programs that compete for attention. Context and adaptation matter. Effective interventions acknowledge variation across roles, teams, industries, and organizational contexts. Approaches that work for software developers may differ from those appropriate for healthcare providers or client service professionals. Building adaptive capacity to tailor and refine interventions for specific contexts enhances effectiveness. Culture change requires leadership commitment. Formal policies achieve limited impact when leadership behavior contradicts stated values. Leaders who visibly model sustainable technology practices, resource well-being initiatives, and measure progress send powerful signals about authentic organizational priorities. Looking forward, several frontiers warrant attention. Research investigating mechanisms and boundary conditions of digital detox remains limited, with opportunities to examine optimal duration and frequency, individual differences in response, and long-term sustainability of effects. Intervention research testing organizational programs through rigorous evaluation designs, including control groups, longitudinal follow-up, and diverse outcome measures, would strengthen the evidence base. As artificial intelligence and automation transform workplace technologies, new challenges and opportunities will emerge. Will AI-powered assistants reduce digital overload by filtering and prioritizing information, or create new forms of technostress through surveillance and algorithmic management? How can organizations harness technological advancement to enhance rather than erode the human experience of work? These questions will shape the next chapter of workplace digital well-being. Organizations that invest now in building foundational capabilities, governance structures, adaptive practices, learning systems, and cultural norms that value sustainable technology relationships, will navigate these evolving challenges most successfully. The goal is not rejecting digital technology but cultivating organizational wisdom about when connectivity serves human flourishing and when disconnection does. In pursuing this balance, organizations can create work environments where technology amplifies human potential rather than depleting it.